Before we get into today's video, couple of points. Number one, tonight, 9 p.m. UK time, over on the Critical Drinkers channel. I'll link it in the description box down below. He and I are going to be discussing The Last of Us Part 2 after he forced me to play through the whole game. He didn't want me just to know about it. He wanted me to experience it so we could discuss it. That's 9 p.m. UK time tonight. Do not miss that. For love nor money. Link description box down below to the channel. And then also, folks, please, can you give my boy Perry Chan a subscription? Drop him some love. Perry is the guy who's been doing the wonderful stuff over on Friday Night Tights. The Filoniing was just absolutely spectacular. And he's just brought out Dr. Uckman today, which I've already watched a good couple of times. He's so funny. He's so good. He does amazing work for us. Please, please, please jump over to his channel. Link in the description box down below Critical Drinkers. Click on and drop him a sub. Thank you very much indeed. Now, with that said, let's talk about some BBC. I know it's from the BBC, but it's about loot boxes. Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface, and I think today there's been a small victory in the fight against loot boxes. This is one thing that I have a massive bee in my bonnet about for numerous reasons, but none more so than I myself, which I went into, was somebody who could not resist gambling when I was younger. When I say younger, I mean in my early to mid-20s. I put myself into terrible situations with gambling. I'd be paid in cash on a weekly basis where I worked. Not under the table, but just in cash. That's just the method that they paid. And I would go to the pub after work. I'd get myself a pint. And then I'd just hit the fruit machines. And I'd hit the fruit machines. And I'd hit them, and I'd hit them, and I'd hit them, and I'd hit them, and I'd hit them. Until all my money was gone. Gone on the first night of being paid. I couldn't help myself. It was an addiction. And it took me a long time to break. And I just remember one day having sunk my wages into the slot machine, knowing that I had rent to pay, which I now couldn't. Knowing that I had no food in the cupboards and no method to get food. Knowing that I'd flogged things around my house to raise money so I could go out and gamble. And I had nothing of worth anymore, just the bare essentials. And I left that pub and I was broken. I had such a pit in my stomach, I could have vomited, knowing that I was at rock bottom. I was lucky. I was very lucky to have the fortitude to stop. How? I don't know. Because there are so many other vices in my life which I can't seemingly quit. But this one just took that moment. And I said, if I carry on like this, I'm just going to be ruined. And I managed to stop. I managed to break the cycle. And it's such a hard cycle to break. And it's a horrible, horrible thing that I would never wish on anyone, even my worst enemy. So when loot boxes come out in video games, it angers me because you don't know what's in the loot box. And we're seeing horror stories left, right and centre of kids getting hold of their parents' credit cards, parents being ignorant to how online monetization really works. And so they might have credit cards set up on the PlayStations or whatever. And so the kids just go and churn money, churn money, churn money. And it's always too late by the time the adults find out. Sometimes they get the money back, sometimes they don't. But what is the biggest problem to me is it teaches kids, children. And bear in mind, people, that every gaming company, every fucking developer that does this knows exactly what they're doing. And they want to hook kids in. They want them to grow up with the normalization of gambling. And it's sick. And so when you think of a kid funneling their money into loot boxes to see what they could get, that is a kid learning to gamble. That's a kid learning to ruin their lives. And it's sad. And it gets me because of what I personally went through. I think it's just a disgrace. Loot boxes, Lords, House of Lords, call for immediate gambling regulation. This is great news. The House of Lords Gambling Committee says video game loot boxes should be regulated under gambling laws. Absolutely. When you don't know what is contained in that box, it is, by pure definition, a gamble to see what's inside. If you know exactly what's in the box, and I mean exactly what's in the box, you get a pink card, a red card, a blue card, and 2 yellow cards. Then at least you know what you're getting. But when you have no clue, and I know they say, well, you get a rare, you can get a rare in every one, 3 commons, there's a 50% chance of a this, and it's bollocks. It's all just bollocks. And with EA doing their Ultimate Team, all you know about the top level is there is a less than 1% chance of getting the top tier. There's a lot of percentages below 1. There's a lot of decimal point below 1 that you can stick after it. Not. The Lords say that they should be classified as games of chance, which would bring them under the Gambling Act of 2005. This is a direct quote. The report says, if a product looks like gambling and feels like gambling, it should be regulated as gambling. Amen. When it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And this is the exact same thing here with loot boxes. There's a difference with microtransactions, and I'm not particularly hot on them either. But if a microtransaction is for a mount, is for a piece of clothing, is for a something, by definition, at least you know exactly what you're getting. At least you know exactly what you're getting. If you want to put your money into it, that's your prerogative. It's not a gamble because you know what you're doing. It's a transaction. It's a transaction just like any other, apart from it's digital. So if that game goes, or if that thing goes, or if the sequel comes out like an annual franchise, then your money is invariably wasted more often than not. As opposed to having something for many multiple years, then yeah, sure, then you could probably justify the outlay of it. And they warn that such change should not wait. The government must act immediately to bring loot boxes within the remit of gambling legislation and regulation, said a statement accompanying the report. Loot boxes have been controversial in video games. They offer player a chance at a randomized reward when opened. To further complicate matters, boxes can often be bought with real money, and the rewards can sometimes be traded. And that is why they can be so attractive. We know all the dodginess of the sites with CSGO over the last few years, and the gambling as regards to that. I think they might have changed things now. I'll have to look into that, but I think they might have changed things as regards to that game because of certain elements of that. Lord Grade, chairman of the committee, told BBC Breakfast that lots of other countries have already started to regulate loot boxes because, quote, they can see the dangers, which is teaching, quote, kids to gamble. Absolutely. This is the stance I've had for a long time. I've put out videos before about this and how it is teaching kids how to gamble. And it was just so frustrating to see it fall on deaf ears for so long. So frustrating to see gaming companies know exactly what they're doing and feigning ignorance. These people are sick. They're sick. They're greedy. They're so greedy, it clouds their judgment. But you tell their kids to get involved into this, and they'll be like, oh, no. No, we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't do that to our own kids. Of course they wouldn't, because they know exactly what they're trying to do. He said the act was way behind what was actually happening in the market, but he added that overwhelming majority of the report's recommendations could be enacted today, as they don't require legislation. We see other things here. Gamers warned about loot boxes. What happens when you ban loot boxes in gaming? You get what you see, what you actually get. My son spent £3,160 in one game. Belgium, loot boxes were banned in 2018. I think Australia have come to the table. Netherlands have come to the table. A lot more countries now getting savvy to this. As part of a wider review of the sector, the Lord's report also notes that young people are most at risk of becoming problem gamblers. And where do we find a lot of these loot boxes with, let's say, FIFA games, etc.? In games made for everybody. Because gambling is for all. Absolute toss nuggets. Toss nuggets, the lot of them. It said 55,000 problem gamblers are aged between 11 to 16. As a result, it says all new online gambling games should be reviewed to see if they appeal to children, and their potential to cause harm should be assessed. The report also highlighted the problem with esports betting as another potential gateway for young people. Researchers told the committee esports represent the largest growth opportunity for sports gambling and presents a particularly worrying as its players and spectators are young. It's good to see that they're finally getting to grips with this, because this is something which has been close to my heart, and this is something to me which should have been dealt with years ago. But it shouldn't have even had to have been dealt with, because the gaming publishers and developers should know exactly what they're doing. And the thing is, they do. And their purpose was to hook your children onto gambling. To hook a generation of kids into normalization of gambling so they could reap the benefits. It's disgusting. So well done, UK. Now let's enact it ASAP. So tonight, again, 9 o'clock, UK time, over on the Critical Drinkers channel, he and I are going to be discussing The Last of Us Part 2, after we've both slogged through the game. Hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and Twitch. YouTube. Still haven't quite got over that. For live streaming, links are in the description box down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.